Well, yeah, it was a pretty dominant performance by the Netherlands. They would have been very happy to win the match, but to score 7 goals is promising. It's a good start to the tournament. A lot of their players got on the score sheet. They scored a corner. I think they'd be very happy with that outcome. They only scored their second goal in the 21st minute, so Malaysia were okay for a while, but they allowed too many balls deep into their circle, so their defending was poor. It's an issue that for instance, India will have today against Belgium, but it's important that you don't allow those balls to penetrate deep into the circle. Once the second goal was scored, then I think Malaysia were in trouble. As long as they were in touch, there was a chance. So the first quarter wasn't too bad, but when it got away from them in the second quarter and they started to fumble the ball and lose possession, they really did lose their way. Mm-hmm. They're enigmatic, aren't they? They're up and down. It's hard to fathom. I mean, they played so well in the Asian games. They looked like they had the final one, and then extraordinarily they lost the unlosable match. That must have had a psychological effect, I suspect. But they have skillful players and talent, and they even made a couple of chances in the first quarter, but it was erratic and it wasn't consistent. And sometimes, you know, when they score, they get on a high. They can be very dangerous. But unfortunately, yesterday, once it was 2, it looked like it might be more, and that's what turned out.
दिलीप, आपको लगता है ओल्टमन्स के मलेशिया टीम के कोच बनने में शायद थोड़ा लेट हो गया था? क्योंकि खुद मैंने रोलांड से बात की तो उन्होंने कहा 5 महीना शायद इतना सही टाइम नहीं होता है. उस पर एग्री करेंगे?
बिल्कुल सही बात.
There were nearly 30 shots on goal. He didn't make a mistake. I don't think he made an error. Maybe the last one he got his toe to it, you know. But all of the others were what you would call unstoppable. And so he made, you were unfair on him. I reckon he made 15 good saves, you know. But in the end, he was like Horatio at the bridge. You know, he was overwhelmed, and that was the problem. It's difficult after that result, but you only have to finish third, and so that means you can then go into the crossovers, and you still have a chance. And so I think that makes this tournament still open. Even teams who lost on the first day, they know a victory in any of the 3 games is probably good enough to get them into third spot. So I think they would fancy themselves. They have some pretty good results against Pakistan. Germany aren't the same force that I think Netherlands are. So they would still see some light at the end of the tunnel. Well, Netherlands and India had good starts. They scored early and they kept going. Australia scored early, then they had a setback. But if you look at the performance in the end, it was pretty dominant. It's just that that against Ireland a tough team, and they held out. And I think that the same was the case. I think Pakistan played a pretty good game. They played within their limitations. They managed the match pretty well. They defended well, and they were unlucky. The goal was a bit unfortunate. The ball just spilt into a space. So Pakistan perhaps were unlucky. China surprised people. That was a nice surprise. But for Malaysia's performance, all of those teams that have lost have been pretty competitive. Well, I think that they were a little bit surprised. Had they scored early, it might have been a different story. Pakistan held out. Pakistan were also hurting them at the other end, making penetrations. So I think maybe they underestimated how good Pakistan would play. But as the game went on, further and further, then Germany had to push pretty hard to get the result. And as I said, perhaps in the end they were quite lucky. Well, my thing about the French team is I think they surprised people too. They're a pretty well organised team, and they made interestingly they probably had the better of the play. They had more chances, more penetrations than New Zealand, and lost the game. One goalkeeping error at the end, and otherwise it's 1-1. So I think in respect of a team like France, then you've got to say they're never a pushover. Never a pushover. I know from Australia's point of view, we often struggle against France. We penetrate, we look like we'll score, their goalkeeper holds us out, they run to the other end and they can make a goal. They've got a couple of dangerous strikers. Masson was very impressive the other day, and they have a corner. And their goalkeeping was good, except for that one error near the end there, which cost them the game. They would have had a point. So you'd have to say this is a toss-up. On form, I think Canada is playing the better, and they seem the better organised. But there's some dangerous players in South Africa. In Austin Smith, they have a good organiser at the back. He's a dangerous corner taker. In Hikes and Drummond and people like that, they can score goals. They can break away. I think this is an even contest, and for both of these teams, this is the most critical match they're going to play. So while looking from a distance, we say, "Oh, this one's not so interesting." If you come from Canada or South Africa, this is the final.
This is the final.
Yeah, well, India were very good the other day. I think they have a very good team now, real consistency. It's interesting. If you asked me 6 months ago, I would have said, well, Sada will be playing, Rupinder will be playing, SB Sunil will be playing, and none of those are playing, and yet we still have a good Indian team. That's something. Says something about the depth that now exists. So the challenge for India will be that what Belgium do, and Belgium is powerful, they fire lots of balls into the circle. They hit balls hard into the circle, maybe 20 or 30 a game, and you've got to be able to defend the edge of your circle. And yesterday the mistake that the Malaysians made was they allowed those balls to penetrate deep into the circle. You can't allow that. You have to have your perimeter defended well, and you have to put pressure on the people firing those passes. That'll be the challenge for India. If India does that, when they get hold of the ball and counter, then they'll cause trouble for Belgium. And the other day I thought the Indian strikers, and particularly someone like Akashdeep, he was terrific. He made the play, he set things up, he's deceptive in the way he passes. They have real quality and talent at the front. Yeah, well, I think that actually fits very well for Akashdeep. He started maybe as a finisher. He was the guy at the front, but he's a clever passer, and he has deception in what he does. He can be looking here and passing there, and I think that that's important to give space to Mandeep, to give space to Lalit, Dilpreet. These people, and they only need a little moment and a little bit of space in the circle, and they can finish. You've got a good corner, so if you get there a lot and you win some corners, then you can score corners. The Belgium's corners haven't been looking good, so from maybe it's just one game, it's a small sample, but leading into the tournament, their corners hadn't been going particularly well either. So maybe there's some doubt in their minds there. But I think that the point you make about Akashdeep is good. The other thing, of course, is that what's happening from the back. Manpreet is capable of making the play. He's capable of delivering balls that make goals. So I think you've got in the midfield a pretty good engine, and you've got some finish at the front. The thing about Belgium is, though, physically they're big and strong, and India can't win that contest. India has to avoid that contest. They have to go around them, and it's their speed and their agility that can make the difference. They have to trust that.
टॉकिंग अबाउट आकाश, दिलीप, आपको लगता है आकाश का जो पूरा रोल चेंज किया है हरिंदर ने, उनको और मदद कर रहा है एक लिंकमैन की तरह?
जैसे संदीप ने कहा कि कॉमन गेम्स में जिस पोजीशन में उसका ओरिजिनल पोजीशन जो है वहाँ पे जब उनको खिला रहे थे उस टाइम उतना क्लिक कर नहीं पाया था, तो उस हिसाब से हरिंदर उनको अलग रोल दिए हैं.
The crowd will be noisy, and we know who they'll be supporting. But in the end, it depends a little bit on what happens in the field. Belgium scores, and the crowd will become silent, you know. And in some ways, the crowd also provides pressure for India. There's an expectation. Well, I think it'll depend a lot on what happens in the first quarter. If India defends well early, then they are in the game. And as time goes on, the score is level, and India's chance to win is pretty good. I think it's a toss-up. My feeling is that maybe we're going to get a draw today.